It started with something simple. Too simple. Emily had been going to the movies a lot lately. Twice a week, sometimes more. At first, I didn't think much of it. She always said it was a girls' night out with her sister or a few of her friends. It seemed harmless. After all, she and I had been together for 6 years, married for 3. I trusted her. But then, little things started to feel off. She'd come home later than usual, sometimes well past midnight. She always had an excuse: long lines at the theater, grabbing drinks after, or just losing track of time. Her phone was always face down, and she'd take it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. And then there was the perfume, one I had never smelled on her before. Still, I pushed those thoughts aside. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was being paranoid. Then, one afternoon, everything changed. I was at the grocery store, picking up a 6-pack and some snacks, when I spotted Emily's sister, Megan, by the produce section. We'd always gotten along well, so I walked over, making small talk. "So, did you like that new action movie Em went to see last night?" I asked casually. Megan blinked, looking confused. "What? I haven't been to the movies in months." My stomach dropped. "Oh, I must have misunderstood. She said she was with you." Megan gave a small laugh. "Nope, not me. Maybe one of her other friends. Maybe. Or maybe not." I forced a smile and changed the subject, but my mind was already spinning. That night, as Emily got ready for yet another girls' night, I watched her closely. She hummed softly as she did her makeup, her phone lighting up every few minutes with new messages. She saw me looking and turned the screen away before slipping it into her purse. "Where are you going tonight?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "Oh, just the usual," she said without hesitation. "Megan and I are catching a movie, then maybe grabbing a drink after." A slow, cold anger settled in my chest. I knew she was lying. Still, I nodded. "Sounds fun." She leaned in, kissing my cheek. "Don't wait up, okay?" I watched her walk out the door, my jaw clenched. The moment she was gone, I pulled out my phone. I had an old friend, Tyler, who worked at the very movie theater Emily frequented. We hadn't talked in a while, but right now, I needed him. I dialed his number. "Yo, Matt. Long time no talk, man," Tyler answered, his voice warm and familiar. "Hey, Ty. Listen. I need a favor." His tone shifted. "Everything okay?" I hesitated for a second, then exhaled. "Emily's been going to the movies a lot. Says it's with Megan or her friends, but I just ran into Megan today, and she said she hasn't been to the theater in months." There was a pause. "You think she's messing around?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But something's not right. She's there again tonight. If you see her, can you keep an eye out?" "You got it, man," Tyler said without hesitation. "If she's up to something, I'll know." I thanked him and hung up. Then, I sat in the dark, staring at the door, waiting. For what, I wasn't sure. But deep down, I already knew, this night was going to change everything. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed. "Tyler, you need to come here. Now." A chill ran down my spine. I grabbed my keys and was out the door before I even had time to think. My mind raced as I sped toward the theater, the glow of the streetlights blurring past. It could be nothing. Maybe she really was going with her friends, and Tyler just wanted to put my mind at ease. But deep down, I knew better. I pulled into the parking lot, my tires screeching slightly as I braked. Tyler was already waiting by the entrance, arms crossed, his expression tense. As soon as I stepped out of the car, he shook his head. "Dude. I didn't think I'd actually find anything," but he hesitated before handing me his phone. I took it with a sinking feeling in my gut. It was a video. Security footage from the theater. I hit play. Emily. Sitting in the back row. Not alone. The man next to her was taller, built like he spent more time in the gym than at work. His arm was draped around her like she belonged to him. Her head rested on his shoulder. I felt sick. And then, she leaned up, whispered something in his ear. He smirked. And right there, in the dim glow of the theater screen, her hands moved over him in ways a married woman's hands should never move. My fingers clenched around Tyler's phone. It got worse. She shifted in her seat, turning toward him, her body pressed close. And then, right there, in the back row of a dark, empty theater, she leaned down. My stomach twisted into knots. I didn't need to see more. I handed the phone back, my jaw locked so tight it hurt. Who is he? My voice was ice. No clue, Tyler muttered. But they've been coming here a lot. Always to the back row. And it's never just watching movies. I stared at the dark entrance to the theater, my mind a storm of betrayal and rage. Every "I love you." Every late-night conversation. Every touch. Every moment I had believed we were happy. It had all been a lie. I had been sleeping next to a stranger. My wife. My lying wife. I inhaled sharply, trying to keep my hands from shaking. When did they get here? An hour ago. They're still inside, Tyler said quietly. You want to confront her? My first instinct was to storm inside, to drag her out of that seat and let her feel even half of the humiliation she had just put me through. I wanted to scream at her, to ask her why. But then something inside me shifted. No. I wasn't going to waste my breath on a woman who had already made her choice. I wasn't going to fight for someone who had thrown me away like I was nothing. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to make her pay. A slow, cold clarity settled over me. No, I said, my voice steady. Not yet. Tyler watched me carefully. You got a plan? I exhaled, my hands relaxing as a new kind of determination took over. I do now. I turned back toward my car, already piecing it together in my head. Emily thought she was being careful. Thought she was smart. Thought I'd never find out. She was wrong. She had no idea what was coming. Tyler had access to the security footage. How about we put on a little show? I asked, my voice colder than I expected. He grinned, catching on immediately. I like the way you think. We planned it carefully. Tyler would record everything, the timestamps, the way she clung to that guy, the way she threw our marriage away in the darkness of that theater. And then, when the moment was right, we'd let her watch the walls of her perfect little lie crumble around her. It didn't take long. A week later, Emily got dressed up again, spritzed herself with that unfamiliar perfume, and kissed me on the cheek. I'm heading out with Megan, she said, smiling like she wasn't about to humiliate me all over again. I forced myself to nod. Have fun. She had no idea I knew exactly where she was going. This time, we were ready. I parked a block away from the theater, waiting. Tyler was inside, keeping an eye on things. The plan was simple, he'd capture footage of them together, and then we'd set the stage for the real show. My phone buzzed. Tyler, they just walked in. Back row, as usual. I'm recording. I exhaled slowly, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Almost there, Emily. Half an hour later, Tyler sent another message. Tyler, dude, you're gonna want to see this yourself. I got out of the car and walked into the theater, keeping my head low, pulling my baseball cap down just enough to obscure my face. The lobby was mostly empty. A few teenagers loitered near the arcade machines. The smell of buttered popcorn and stale soda filled the air. Tyler was waiting near the concession stand. He handed me his phone without a word. I hit play. Emily was sitting in the back row, as expected, curled up against her lover like they were some kind of teenage romance couple. His arm was around her, and her hand, her hand, was resting on his thigh, fingers tracing absent circles. I felt a sick twist in my gut. Then, just like last time, she leaned over, whispered something in his ear. He grinned. And then she disappeared beneath the seats. A deep, burning rage settled in my chest. I should have felt pain. Maybe I did. But more than anything, I felt the weight of my next move solidify in my mind. I was done being the fool. I turned to Tyler. Did you get a clear recording? He nodded. Every angle. Time-stamped. High definition. She won't be able to talk her way out of this one. Good. I slipped his phone into my pocket. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to ruin her. The next night, I invited Emily to the movies. Just the two of us, I said, forcing an easy smile. Like old times. She hesitated, just for a split second. Maybe she sensed something. Maybe some tiny part of her guilty conscience whispered that something wasn't right. But she smiled back, slipping her arms around my waist. That sounds perfect. I bet it did. She spent extra time getting ready, choosing a dress I hadn't seen in months, applying the perfume that once made my heart race. But all I could think about was the footage burned into my brain. The way she touched him. The way she looked at him. And tonight, she was going to pay for it. We drove to the theater together, the silence between us heavier than usual. Emily was on her phone a lot, texting, probably making up some excuse for him about why she couldn't see him tonight. I wondered if she'd text him after, if she'd cry on his shoulder when everything fell apart. Good. Let him have her. She had no idea what was coming. The theater was packed. It was a special screening night, after all. Friends, family, neighbors, even a few coworkers were here. People she saw every day. They were all smiling, chatting, waiting for the movie to start. Emily didn't seem to notice. She let me lead her to the seats I'd chosen, dead center, the best possible view. She leaned close, resting her hand on my arm. I love this, she whispered. Us spending time together. I forced a chuckle. Me too. If she felt my muscles tense beneath her fingers, she didn't mention it. The lights dimmed. The trailer started. My pulse pounded in my ears. And then, the real show began. The screen flickered. Instead of the opening credits of the movie, our movie started playing. The image was grainy at first, like an old security feed. Then it cleared. Emily. Sitting in the back row. Her body pressed up against him. His hands all over her. The timestamp flashing in the corner, just last week. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emily stiffened beside me. Wah. Then the next clip played. Her whispering something in his ear, lips brushing against his skin. The next. Her hand moving lower. The next. Her disappearing under the seats. The murmurs turned into shocked whispers, into barely restrained laughter, into disgusted exclamations. Oh my God. No way. Is that Emily? Emily shot up from her seat as if burned, her breathing ragged. The screen kept playing. She turned to me, eyes wide, wild with panic. Matt, what is this? I leaned back in my seat, completely calm. I figured if you love movies so much, we should watch one together. I gestured at the screen. This one's especially interesting. She clutched my arm. We need to leave. Now. I pulled my arm away. Why? I thought you liked this theater. Her breathing came fast and shallow. She turned, looking around, and for the first time, she realized, everyone was watching her. Her sister, Megan, was staring at her with pure horror. My parents, sitting a few rows back, looked sick. Her friends had their hands over their mouths, some leaning away like her betrayal might be contagious. A guy near us let out a low whistle. "Man, that's brutal." Someone else laughed. Emily's face went ghostly pale. She bolted. Shoving past people, nearly tripping over the steps in her heels. She didn't even make it to the exit before someone called out, "Hey, Emily, where's your date tonight?" Laughter erupted. She didn't look back. I stood up, stretching like I had just enjoyed a relaxing movie. A few people clapped. A guy sitting nearby leaned over. "Dude," he whispered, shaking his head in awe. "That was legendary." I just smiled. Emily thought she was untouchable. Thought she was smart. Thought she'd never get caught. She was wrong. And now, everyone knew it. The moment we left the theater, my phone started blowing up. "Emily, Matt, please. We need to talk." "Emily, I can explain." "Emily, it was a mistake. I love you. We can fix this." Fix this? There was nothing left to fix. I blocked her number. The next morning, she showed up at the house, pounding on the door. I didn't answer. I just stood by the window, watching as she paced on the porch, mascara smudged, her perfect little world crumbling around her. "Matt, please. Just talk to me." Silence. Eventually, she sank down onto the steps, head in her hands. I almost felt bad. Almost. Then I remembered the security footage. She stayed there for almost an hour before finally giving up, getting into her car, and speeding off. That was the last time I ever saw her in person. I filed for divorce the next day. The case was open and shut. The evidence was overwhelming, her infidelity, the timestamps proving her lies, the way she had humiliated me in front of everyone we knew. She didn't even try to fight it. And just like that, our marriage was over. But the best part? Turns out, her boyfriend was also married. His wife didn't take it too well either. Last I heard, she found out the same night I exposed them. And unlike me, she wasn't interested in a calculated revenge plan. She trashed their apartment. Threw all his belongings into the street. Smashed his car windows. And when he came home, she decked him right in the face in front of the entire neighborhood. Guess they got their own show. As for me, I'm doing just fine. Better than fine, actually. I took some time for myself. Got back into shape. Traveled. Spent time with friends, the ones who actually cared about me. It's funny how many people came forward after everything, saying they had always had a bad feeling about Emily. But no one ever warned me. Not that it would have mattered. Some things, you have to see for yourself. And I did. Now. I'm free. No more lies. No more fake girls' nights. No more coming home to a wife who secretly wanted someone else. I sleep better. Breathe easier. And when I go to the movies, I go alone. Because I'd rather sit in an empty theater than ever share a seat with a woman like that again. But now, I have to ask. Was this revenge enough? Or would you have done something even worse?